All right, it is 7 o'clock. We will call this February 18th Delphi Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. Would you all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, very good. Thank you. All right. Deb, do you want to come up here? Fine. Okay. So we're gonna thank you guys. First of all, thank everyone for coming out tonight. Bear with us. This is the first meeting for the Board of Zoning Appeals since November of 2023. So it's good to see you guys again. First time I've got a chance to run one of these meetings since my previous days at Area Plan. So first item of business, I think before we get going with the petition is election of officers if need be. Yeah, so the previous chair, I believe in 2023 was Brandon Short. And I was told that previous mayor Worthing delivered you guys packets, which sorry, I did not know about that. But you do have an agenda and sorry, I didn't get you a script, but we'll work through this. So with that being said, do you want me to let him open it up or do you want me to, it doesn't matter?
Formally.
Yep, so. Okay, Brandon. Actually, you want to do introduction of board members? That way the public knows who we're speaking with and okay. Want to start with you, Jacob?
Yes, Jacob Chris, member of BZA. I live at 9152 Milroy. Glad to see everybody out here tonight. It's a pretty big turnout. Thank you, everybody came.
Christina Langsdorf, I'm the BZA since at least a year and a half ago as the secretary, and I live on Franklin, Indiana.
Brandon Short, also been on the BZA at least a year and a half. I was the president when we first started, and I live over on Vine Street.
How many meetings did you guys have in 23?
I can get that in 3.
Well, I mean, it wasn't very many, right? I mean, it's maybe 3, 4.
3.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Cameron Yates, City of Delphi Mayor.
Courtney Kingery, was the vice president of BZA, Delphi member, live over on Front Street.
And we are missing one board member, Greg Norman, who will not be here this evening. So that is our 5-member BZA panel.
We officially had meetings in July, August, and November.
Okay. All right, Brandon.
All right, so the next thing on the agenda is let's go over the meeting minutes from a year and a half ago. You have approval on those?
Motion to approve the November 2023 meeting minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cool. And next on the agenda, do we need to make any changes to the agenda? Any consideration for that?
I don't think so.
Nope.
But you might open up nominations for the positions for 2025.
Okay. We can open up slate of officers, if anybody would like to change or nominate anyone specific or
So
nominate yourself.
open up the floor for chair.
Just open
Take
up the
nominations
floor
for
chair.
Can I move to keep the current slate of Brandon as president, Courtney as vice president, and me as secretary, and Jacob as member?
So everybody's got a title.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll move to just keep everything the way it is. We don't have any old business, so we can just move past that. New business, we can open up the public hearing. Would you like to start, Deb, or do you want me to kind of read some general off the agenda?
You can just go off the agenda.
Okay. So we've got docket BZA 2501-UV. The petitioner is requesting approval of variance of use to allow car wash on the site of a proposed future gas station. The property is located at 2053 North US 421. It is currently zoned general business and contains 5.167 acres. The petitioner is Family Express Corporation. So we're going to start with the presentation by the petitioner.
You could introduce yourself to the panel and try not to stand directly in front of the out because we are live streaming out to YouTube, but you'll be, nope, you're good, right? You're
Yeah,
fine
wherever
right
you
there.
were.
Yep, you're fine right there. So as long as everybody can hear you.
By introduction, I'm Joe Bumbleberg. I'm with the law firm of Paul Eggleston in Lafayette. I'm supposed to be retired, but I came out of retirement when the client called, and they had been a previous client. And they evidently liked what I did before, so they asked me again. I enjoy being here in Delphi. The mayor knows that I have a history in this town that goes way back to when I was a little kid and my grandfather's twin brother was the fire chief here. So I feel like I know the philosophy of Delphi and the things that go on here. The matter that you are about to hear this evening is an interesting one. First of all, you have a staff report, which is a very delightfully good document. And we'll address that later. But we are talking tonight about a single issue, an accessory use on this piece of ground. We are not talking about whether or not the convenience store, the filling station, all that is part of your decision-making process. It is not. That process is permitted on this site as a matter of right. The accessory use is our only issue here this evening. And whether or not that accessory use is granted or not will be part of the judgment process of Family Express as they decide on this whole project. We are in the GB zone, and let me tell you a little bit about Family Express. They are an Indiana corporation. They are wholly owned by one family. They are vertically integrated, family-owned business. They've been in business for about 50 years. They have at least 81 stores in northern and central Indiana. They have the plan to continue to add stores to their matter. They have their own bakery, their own logistics center, and it's a really interesting operation so that the commodities that they sell are unsurpassed in their perishables. They have national awards as being a good operation. Convenience store chain of the year in the United States in 1 year. The car wash that they want to put in is an integral part of what we're doing here this evening. Their car washes are environmentally friendly. They're more friendly than even washing your car at home. They use less water. They employ specialized biodegradable cleaning agents that minimize the environmental impact. The system also prevents harmful pollutants from entering the storm drains and the local waterways, and they protect the ecosystem. They offer both brush and touchless wash options depending on the client. So that's a little bit about what the car wash would be. Now, in keeping with your practice, you had a staff report done by your consultant. I have read that staff report, and the process of granting a variance that we are asking for is one where the statute provides 5 different subject matters over which you should make some judgment. That subject matter is an evaluation, really, of what the variance is all about. And the staff report here has been, in my experience of representing people in front of planning commissions, It's one of the best staff reports I've seen in many, many times. So you can be proud of what you've got here. But the matters of the statute, whether or not the approval of the car wash alone would be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And the staff report will speak to that. The use and value of the adjacent property. That again is addressed in the staff report. The need for the variance arising out of a condition peculiar to the property. Again, addressed in the staff report. The application, strict terms of the ordinance, again, addressed in the staff report. And the approval does not affect substantially anything in the Delphi Comprehensive Plan. Again, addressed in the staff report. There are all kinds of materials that I don't think I want to belabor for you here, except to tell you that, again, the car wash that they're going to put here is one which will not affect anything, but is a matter that is necessary. I understand. We have a gal that works in our office that lives here. And I said to her today, where are the car washes in Delphi? And she said to me, well, I don't think there are any. So we would be giving you a service here in the community that may not exist. And it is the kind of service that customers demand. They really want to see it as a service. Our statute or ordinance that you work with permits a car wash as an accessory use. What that simply means is it has to be something that is fixed in the use process with the main use, the primary use on the site. I leave it to judge. I've always wondered about public health, safety, morals, and general welfare as such generalities, but rarely ever do we find that those kinds of things are affected by a use, unless it's something terribly onerous, which this would not be. The 5 items that are the statutory items have been judged by your staff. And your staff has given our opinion on those together with the staff response. And the staff responses, all of them are written in your staff report and they're right on the money. They dress them properly and carefully and they're all there. What does that lead to? That leads to the fact that the people that you pay to be your expert on this whole thing also make a staff recommendation. And the staff has recommended in that report, as I read, that they recommend that you approve this variance. And they have 4 conditions. It's, the conditions are that you're only approving a car wash. There's nothing else involved. The site plan that they have looked at will substantially be complied with. The development standards will be met, and all the permits necessary to access 421 will be coordinated and obtained. So what you see here is a staff report that addresses all of the issues, correctly finds that all of the statutory issues have been met with, and that the use that is being placed here has, in my judgment, good value to the town of Delphi and a good value to the community. When they put this in and get this, if this project goes, there are going to be 15, 18 new jobs. And this is going to be a $5 million add-on to your tax base, which I would suspect any kind of government or any city government would like to have. So there is value in this, in the wrong one, to the town of Delphi. I have here a representative of Family Express, and I would respectfully request that you approve this request for a variance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob, do you need I had packets printed off, but they apparently disappeared into the crowd. Do you need one?
I read it before I came on.
Okay.
If you got an extra one, I'll take it.
I can go print you one.
I can use it on my phone if you want.
Yeah. There was several, but I think they're out in the crowd now, so that's. If we need to print more, we'll print more, but. Can you see that on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got good eyes still. All right, so. The next thing we're gonna go over is the staff report. Is that gonna be you, Deb, going over that one? Cool, thank you.
So Mr. Bumbleberg hit on a lot of points from the staff report. A couple of things I did want to add. Firstly, some background information about the use variance process before you. So the general business zoning district allows the future proposed uses of convenience store, the fueling station, the self-service pet wash by right. However, in this general business zoning district, car washes are not permitted as a primary use or an accessory use. So in order to accommodate an accessory car wash, the petitioner had a few options that they could have gone through to achieve this. First is what we're here for tonight, apply for a variance of use to consider the accessory car wash on a site-specific basis. Second, they could have rezoned the property local business and requested a special exception to allow the accessory car wash. Or third, they could have rezoned the property to light industrial or heavy industrial, where a car wash would have been permitted by right. So the petitioner preferred the approach to request that variance of use. A variance of use is permission granted by the BZA in accordance with state statute to allow a specific use that is not otherwise permitted in a zoning district. Per Indiana code, when considering a variance of use, the BZA shall find that the standards for evaluating the variance have all been satisfied, and those are the 5 criteria we talked about. This method for considering the use also allows the BZA to examine the proposed use on a case-by-case basis and ensure that site-specific standards or conditions can be met to make it possible. I also wanted to add that we had 2 forms of public comment that were submitted in writing. The first is listed in the staff report from an area resident who is against the development of a fueling station and convenience store in general. They cited a loss of privacy, the additional noise and chaos that would bring to the area, as well as proliferation of gas stations in general. They did note that sidewalks should be required on the site if it is developed, and I had attached the full letter in the staff report. Also got another email, and I'll go ahead and read it into the record and add an actual printout to it. Regarding the proposed Family Express, I represent a consortium of area gas station owners who oppose the proposed opening of a Family Express gas station and car wash in the city of Delphi. Specifically, I write on behalf of Mr. Sandeep Singh Sainai, not sure if I pronounced that right, who owns the Shell station located at 223 West Main Street and the Country Mark located at 303 West Main Street. And Mr. Patel, who owns the Phillips 66 station located at 230 West Main Street. Quick Stop, which owns the Shell station at 1245 Commercial Drive and the BP station at 502 West Main Street, as well as Mann Brothers, who owns the Country Mark station at 1523 North US 421 and the Marathon station located at 900 South Washington Street. The opinion of all the foregoing gas station owners is that the population of Delphi would not support the opening of a new gas station, as many of them are struggling financially already. They fear that the net result of opening a new gas station will be that 2 or 3 existing stations will fail, resulting in unsightly and potentially dangerous conditions to the city. Thank you for consideration, Mr. Timothy Broden. So, and lastly, as Mr. Bumberberg had mentioned, staff had given this a favorable recommendation for the use variance with the conditions that the approval is only for the car wash as an accessory use exclusively for this applicant, not transferable to other applicants without going through the process again. The site plan should substantially conform to the plan presented. All development standards for the site should be met and all necessary permits accessing 421 are coordinated and obtained.
Thank you, Deb.
Mhm.
So next we'll move on to public comment. I'll open the floor.
I'm Tim Broden. I wrote the letter, so I won't repeat everything that I indicated in the letter. There are a few of the gentlemen that own the stations here this evening, and they did show me some Facebook posts from members of the community regarding the issue, who also believe that there's already sufficient, more than maybe sufficient number of gas stations here locally, and also pointed out that the intersection where the proposed Family Express would be going in as a very congested area, and for that reason they oppose the construction of the new Family Express there. And so for that reason, just reiterate that we would request that the request for the use variance be denied. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Am I allowed to ask questions? The gentleman who was here, he mentioned that there would be an additional 15 to 18 jobs created and $5 million on the tax base. Was that basically for the car wash, the mini mart, the gas station, everything, or is that just what's being presented tonight with the addition of the car wash? So are there going to be 15 to 18 new jobs created by the car wash and $5 million?
You wanna,
Yes, it's for the entire project.
That's
not-
Correct.
I also want to know is the car wash that I haven't seen the plans or anything, is this going to be something for just like personal vehicles or also commercial vehicles? Is it going to be a truck washout? What exactly is being planned with the car wash? I know he mentioned automatic and manual, but is it going to be accessible to commercial vehicles?
It will not be accessible generally for commercial vehicles. This is going to be designed for the personal kind of use vehicles. You're not gonna see any semis here.
And then is it a recycle use water, or is this going to play into the Guilford ditch, which is going to be, consideration with all the new housing already down in that field? The ditch is already near capacity, so I was just wondering what we're looking at. The load that's gonna pull on our water supply and also anything that's gonna be returned. So can somebody speak to how the water, is it a recycled usage car wash with the water, or what's the process?
Well, they're going to have cleaning agents that minimize environmental impact. Pollutants that will be taken out of it and not entering into storm drain or the local waterways. And so they are going to have devices and systems to protect the ecosystem.
so their plan is to, during that, sorry, Gail,
No, you're
that
fine.
process is gonna happen prior to it entering, her question was, is it going to the Guilford drain or is it going into the city infrastructure? So that process will happen prior to it going to the city infrastructure?
Sure, the technical aspect of the car wash, I can tell you that it will comply with all rules and regulations. And from an environmental standpoint, it's at the tip of the spear in terms of what's required.
But the plan of it is to go into infrastructure, not into any, right? Because we don't have that civil,
Correct.
but at this point, yeah. So that's what she's asking. How's it gonna get into the city infrastructure and yeah. So does that answer your question, Gil?
And then the other part of that question was, what's the load gonna be on our water source? Do we have any idea what this is gonna take from our waters? I mean, we're looking at, a field down there that's gonna have very soon 60 to 100 new homes in it that are gonna require the infrastructure, the water, and what's the bearing gonna be with this as well?
Well, that's an engineering question, and part of it has to do with whether or not people use this or not. So that to answer her question with some kind of definitive nature, you just can't do it. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, the gentleman that was speaking here is indeed a representative of the owners of Family Express.
So at any point, have the department heads for the water department been contacted for a water study of, I guess, a ballpark of, if you thought you had a maximum of 100 cars a day, or kind of a breakdown of what the possible use would be per day, per week from the city water infrastructure person?
What's the part of the process?
Okay, right, yeah. I'm just asking if that was done just to get an idea how much water usage, so.
Nobody's asked us that.
So,
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I've heard through the grapevine that it is using recycling of water. That's, I wonder if anybody can speak to what percentage of the water gets recycled and reused and how much. And kind of following up on her question, how much then gets expected to be pulled up by either the drain or the city infrastructure. Do you have any idea of what percentage of the water used in the car wash process gets recycled?
I don't know the technical side. I can tell you, I think there are no pollutants that are being dumped into.
I understand that. That's a separate question.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
would you guys mind stating your name prior to, that way she can, just for the minutes,
Yeah.
please? Yep. Yeah, we know a lot of you, but just in case of the event we don't, we can make sure that we have accurate meeting minutes, so.
Subdivision that is just across the street from where this is going to be located. And the information we got is that the builder does not want to do any of the project if they can't have the car wash. And so that's why we're against the car wash, is because we think the whole project is in a bad location. We think the car wash is fine, but it's not a good place there. The two entrances right there on that curve, right before the school, is just a problem. They may put the water into the city system, but if there is any kind of breakage in the system underground or in the gas tanks underground, that is going to go into the Guilford drain and the creek. And it's almost, I think it's too close to the high school to not be a attractive nuisance and have high school kids running across and junior high kids running across the highway there. It's going to cause traffic jams. I don't think it's a good aesthetic for the entrance to our city. And so I hope that we don't allow a change of zoning, because zoning laws are made for a reason and they should rarely be changed. And I think we have a lot of people here saying why this is not a good place for this particular plan.
Go ahead.
I'm Dan McCain, I live in the north part of Delphi, and I'm a Purdue graduate in agronomy with a double major in soils. So I've come here before, as you may have known, because my concern for soils and how well they're used and what kind of limitations there might be. I would say the blessing is these are great soils that we're talking about. In fact, for a farmer, these are ideal. They're well-drained soils, they're productive, they're good on surface. But what you have to look at is this particular soil type is called ockley, soil loam. And ockley is underlain with gravels and sands below. So if you were to put tanks and other things in the ground, you could have some serious problems with leakage, seepage into the groundwater. For that reason, I'd say it's important to recognize the soil characteristics. And maybe that's an engineering situation in which can be solved because the engineers understand how to seal or how to manage it. The thing that I want to bring out is I was 20 years in Fort Wayne area, many times being asked to come out to look at soils for a new home site, a subdivision, an industrial site, even a sanitary landfill, other things. and to be able to evaluate the soils based on what they're capable of doing. Well, I spent a lot of time doing that. And as a result of that, my background or insurance interest in that is that there's some historical things about this soil site that ought to be considered. First of all, it doesn't appear to me that any kind of main entrance for the ultimate development of the rest of the Ballon Farm, there may be 4 or 5 different entry points along 200 or along, as I already see, on Prince William Road. But it seems to me what a shame that we're passing on something, a piece of property that actually has a very significant entry point, at least historically. And you know that the county fairgrounds was at that site at one time, years and years and years ago. That's before Flora got it, we got the courthouse, so. Anyway, it's part of that, and there was clearly an oval racetrack for horses. That was part of the city's property now, and now almost to 200. And that circle used to be ringed with trees. It was oval shaped. And if you go back and look at an older aerial photograph, you'll see that ring around like that. Well, it's lost. Okay, so it's not there anymore. But the point is, though, that was a beautiful piece of property. And now we have just about stripped off all the frontage along the roads. And I don't know whether the state highway would allow that there would become a major entrance to the subdivision there. But I think it's a big mistake not to use that if it were possible to have that as an entrance, because it's an grand entrance to a beautiful project of homes. And maybe other businesses and small village type businesses would be in there. And I think the planning commission should either commission somebody or some planner to come up with a plan, if that's one of the options of being able to have the entrance there, one of the entrances. Because I think it's a lost opportunity. You're pretty soon, the whole thing's gonna be sealed off by other uses that don't have anything to do with the ultimate development of the property itself. So from a soil standpoint, it's a decent place to start with any kind of, you could have basements, you could have, but you wouldn't be able to build ponds on top there, at least without the engineering problem of being able to seal the bottom, because there is gravel down there. So think about that in terms of what kind of uses you make of the property, because if it does have leakage from oil or gas or whatever, then you may have an issue that needs to get dealt with later. And I don't think you want problems later, do you?
No.
So that's my point.
So just before we get to the next comment, one of the, through this process, one of the approvals is through NDOT. NDOT does, and I don't think this has, obviously it hasn't been presented to this board, or we haven't received it. The NDOT does traffic studies. You know, when you come up to a stoplight in West Lafayette, that's all because of engineering. There's been a lot of engineering studies. So there's different kinds of ingress egress. There's minor commercial, major commercial, which you see at Walmart's, the bigger commercial. So NDOT at some point, they'll have to, that it'd be a change of use. Right now it's a vacant piece of land. NDOT would have to do some kind of approval. You have to get any ingress egress off of a state road or a US road. There has to be some kind of approval through NDOT. So this would probably be considered a minor commercial, but to date we have not received anything of that. So I don't believe that they've had that done at this point. If they have, we have not seen it, but that would be Federal Highway, NDOT and all them saying, okay, we have this much site distance. There's about 20 different factors that go into what they decide, or if they don't decide, if they say, no, it doesn't meet our technical specification, which is a book about this thick. So anyway, that's just another process through, not from this board, but from the Federal Highway in the state of Indiana that has to be approved prior to anything going into this piece of land. So just a tidbit of information for the public on that. Not anything to do with the variance, but it's down the road if this anything was going there that's business related. So
I got one last point I'd like to say. When you mentioned NDOT, it reminds me that one of the things that's unique about that site, from just about where the entrance or the potential car wash would be, was the beginning of the Plank Road, which went to Prince William. That's why it's called Prince William Road through much of the county. And because of that, that was an opening that allowed for transit by people, cars, wagons and so forth, and it was a toll road. Can you believe that? We had a toll road back in the mid 1800s. And that was because you didn't want to ride through the mud. So you went on the plank road,
That's
cost you.
interesting.
So it's up those these parts of history that could be brought out as part of our heritage in Carroll County, and why that is important. I don't know, does anybody care about that? Well, we would care more if we knew about it.
Yeah.
We would make it public.
Sure.
So that's my point.
Okay.
Is there a planning commission other than the zoning board?
Yeah, there's an area plan commission as well.
There's
That's for the city or county?
there's a city and county. Yep. So
Has this been brought to the city planning?
it did not. Deb, you want to specify the
Sure, when somebody wants to develop a commercial site, they have to provide a development plan, and that's when the Delphi Advisory Plan Commission would then get involved in the process.
so kind of alluding to what you said a little bit ago, Beverly, was if this wasn't zoned right, it wouldn't be in front of this board. It would be in front of the planning commission for a rezone. So the planning commission handles zoning, whereas this board handles anything, if it's zoned, any changes, variances, special exceptions and all that. So that's a separate board, which nothing alluded to going in front of that board at the present moment, right? So which is why they're starting with the BZA, which is the special or the variance for the car wash. So two separate boards. Delphi used to be part of Carroll County's area plan. They came over to their own in 2023, which was when this board was formed. And again, last time that they met. So
Could we get a show of hands of people who are here opposed to this happening there?
I don't know if we're to, it's your meeting, however you, I think you still got some more comments.
Yeah, we've still got public comment. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, we can move forward with public comment though.
Yeah, this is Lauren Murphy. So for the record, MURFREE, because everyone spells that name wrong. Me and my husband Paul here. I reluctantly drive them out tonight. We live on North Street, so a little bit further down from this proposed. My main concerns really are with the claim of these really green cleaners. I would love to see the material data sheets to actually see what you're putting into that cleaner. There's plenty of research that shows University of Washington study from 2001, 2013. They found a lot of chemicals, the hydrofluoric acid chemicals are typically used in car washes. When you touch those chemicals that are not deleted, workers, it can cause burns, very significant burns. Then when they're aerosol too, you can have respiratory issues. So anyone in that vicinity, which you will be having houses put up around there, which are zoned for houses, will be exposed to that mist potentially. So that's what I'm concerned about, children with respiratory issues, children with asthma. I have asthma. I'm downwind probably from this area. And so I'm pretty concerned about these chemicals. What exactly are they? They have to have material data sheets. I would love to see them submitted for records. We actually see the people put in this car wash, we see what's being submitted. That's my main concern really. Another concern that I have is related to, let me pull it up here. I think a woman over here shared about the water system. They could, I know it's not required, I understand, to submit additional information. They could do an estimate of what's gonna pull from the water table. They could do an estimate of the burden on a municipality, water table, to provide some relief to the public. If you have other places that you had car washes, they have that data, they can pull it and share it with us. So I don't like the claims that we just don't have it and we don't want to give it because it wasn't requested, especially because this is a variance. They should be held to a higher standard when doing a variance. So that is my main concern, really. Also, the comprehensive plan was referenced by the gentleman in the back room here. I participated in the comprehensive plan. I went back to look at the comprehensive plan. It does not indicate commercial in that area. It indicates commercial on that main street that goes through town where there is a gas station, there was an old pizzeria. That's commercial. This area is indicated as mixed use as desired for future use. So I'm confused if this is supposed to be a commercial variance, why it is then going into the comprehensive plan. So those are my concerns, really material data sheets. What the woman said over here about municipality water sources, and is it actually aligned with the comprehensive plan? I don't feel like it is. So those are my three main points. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to make any comments? Go ahead.
My name is Dick Bradshaw. I live on Riley Road. With my experience in with the Board of Works, I think I can say our water situation is pretty good. Our wastewater situation is not. We are 80–90% capacity on our wastewater, always a big issue. We're spending millions to build a new wastewater plant, which won't really come into effect for several years probably, but it's coming. The second item is nobody in this room wants a car wash more than I do. I love it. However, I don't want another convenience store. I don't want another gas station. And I particularly don't want those things in that location. Like Dan said, that's an entrance to our city. When people drive in, what's their impression? We got a beautiful school system. We got a nice water system out here. It's a car wash and another convenience store, something that we need. We now have, I think, at least 7 gas stations and convenience stores. Do we need 8? I don't think so. I think we need to look very carefully at this, and it seems to me that we're trying to backdoor into a convenience store by saying, once we get the car wash, now we got to have the convenience store to go along with the car wash. So I just think it's a real bad idea. It's a poor choice for our city.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Pam.
Yes, my name is Pam Minear. I live on Riley Road and I agree totally with Mr. Bradshaw. If I want gas, I have 7 choices. That's fun. I think that that land could be used for something.
Anyone else like to make a comment? In the red in the back.
Ashley
Please,
Tyner.
chance.
I just got a question. When was that land zone commercial? Because not too long ago, there was a house on that property.
I think it was 2022.
It was before I started with the city, so it would have been before.
Yeah, it was
2023.
before it came over to, before it came to Delphi, started their own. It was approved by the Carroll County Area Plan Commission. It was split, 10 acres was split off, zoned, not central business, but general business. Yep. So I think it was, don't quote me on it, but it was either 2022 or 2021. So it was a 10-acre split off of that.
My name is Carl Cease. I live on Heritage Drive. Mr. Yates, you referred to the NDOT process that we'll have to go through if it proceeds, and that they have lots of criteria that they consider factors, and you refer to a very thick book.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know or does anybody know if any of those factors are taken into account? The aesthetics. We've been talking about how it would ruin the appeal of a nicer entrance to town. Is that anything that NDOT considers?
I don't think it's aesthetics. I think it's more engineering and safety factors as far as sight distance, ingress, egress. You know, there's a formula for it that goes to the LaPorte District Engineering Office that does their equation. So as far, now don't quote me, I don't work for the engineering department out of LaPorte, but I don't know that one of the questions when they go out to do their traffic study is going to be, does this look like a good location, right? So I think that's more deemed on safety and more of how it's going to be built if it is built. So
That's what I would have assumed, but when you said the book was that thick, I'm not.
yeah, and I have one in my office if you want to see it, and it gets thicker every year. So yeah. But I worked for NDOT for several years. I never seen anything that had anything to do with, does this look okay here, right? It was all engineering, all safety factors, and ingress, egress stuff. So a lot of times for certain intersections, again, I'll go back to West Lafayette. There was traffic studies done. How many car crashes have been here? the city of Delphi in Carroll County is actually part of a transportation committee that is ran by Tippecanoe County, that we have meetings through the Tippecanoe County area plan. So they do data on how many cars pass through each road. And if we submit a road that we want a traffic study, we can get that data. So I think Prince William was on that last year or the year before because of the development of Bowen. So again, that's all data that comes from law enforcement with crashes and all that. So that's all goes into the factor of that all goes to NDOT. NDOT and Federal Highway have their standards on, does it meet it or does it not? So they're ultimately the deciding factor for that portion of it, right? We will, the city doesn't have any control of that. But to answer your question, I've never seen anything that says anything about aesthetics. So I can look for you tomorrow. I could call engineer if you like.
Go ahead.
The paperwork, again, that we were given, because I guess we live close, says that the total acreage on one place says 5.167, and in another place says 10.69 acres. So I'm just wondering what the difference is there. And then premises affected, it says a subdivision, then they put no answer. So I don't know if that means they haven't thought about how it's gonna affect. And flood zone or site, again, no answer. So I think it does ask for those things.
I can answer at least the 10-acre portion of that.
Okay.
So there is it's a 10.7 acre parcel, and they're wanting to purchase 167 acres of that parcel
So all of
as
the
part of the
green,
plan.
all the green, the whole 10.
I believe it's,
It's the whole 10.
The green is the 10, the entire 10.
Okay.
The red outline is the parcel they want to purchase.
So does that landlock the other remaining acreage?
No.
You talking about behind the 88 acres? Sandy, is that?
like, are you asking if the acreage not being purchased is available to like have road access?
Yeah.
It does. There's, yeah, right there on Prince William. Yeah, that
would be
acreage
an
extends
easement
down.
for travel, but not for the pest, but for the people that live there necessarily. Right? It seems like that's a waste not to have a nice entrance though for your property.
I understand. Did that answer the questions on those, Elise? Any other comments?
Yeah. Sandy Flora, I live on Armory Road. I didn't realize this was just a variance for the car wash. I would love a car wash, but I feel like if we have to have another gas station and convenience store to achieve that, I would rather not have that car wash here. I feel like we've worked really hard. I'm been all for progress, and I feel like Delphi has worked really hard for our citizens and our businesses. And the last thing I think we need is to load down our town with a bunch of car washes. That's my opinion, and I'm gonna be a neighbor. Or not car washes, gas stations, I'm sorry. I don't see that bringing in a lot of jobs, especially people who are gonna apply jobs. And I don't want it to hurt our existing business. I just don't. I feel like we owe something. And we've during COVID, we did a lot for our business, and I want to see it survive. Thank you.
Can I make another comment?
Yeah.
My name is Gail Connor. I did some research on this, and I know the attorney stood here and he said this is separate because it's about the car wash, but it looks like it's really, a combined situation. The research that I did at the time, and I teach, I'm concerned about our kids. It's within 1,000 feet of our school property. It's also within 1,000 feet of a senior living community. It's within 1,000 feet of our water storage tank. All of the research that I did talked about the fact that, you've got to look at your natural resources. I sat on the comprehensive plan committee for 2 years when we worked on that and created that document. And one of our biggest concerns was to protect our natural resources, our air quality, our water quality. And I know that that site has been technically surveyed before when they put the water tower there. Our water superintendent can probably speak to that. I've seen that survey. And Dan spoke to that again tonight. I think that one thing that we have to always consider is our next generation. My heart is for the kids. I know yours is too. I don't want to put something there that's going to cause carcinogenics for our seniors. That's going to potentially, degrade our water quality, seep into our water structure. Our water tower is right there. And I think all of those things have to come into play because it's so much bigger than just a car wash tonight. And that's my concern because there are people like the children and the seniors that don't always have a voice, and somebody needs to speak up for them tonight too.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, start in the back.
Hi, it's Dave Brumbitt. Live in one cobblestone court down roadway. Not
Sorry,
too
what's
far.
your last name?
RUMBUT.
Thank you.
My concern is I don't live too far from the spot area what I'm looking at, and it's my visual, I have a vision. And I don't tend to like to look at a car wash or another gas station. I come here, I moved back from 10 years in Florida. And I've seen all of the Florida and I've seen all its beauty and everything else. But why did I want to come back to Delphi? I love the small, cozy area, the people, the naturalness, and I just don't like the word mimic. If there wasn't any, means none. But when you talk about mimical, that's like a position saying, well, we're only gonna take off a foot, instead of part of the whole park. So if you don't do anything, then nothing happens. We don't have to worry about our soil. We don't have to worry about loss of gas. I come here for peace, and I like, and it's just, I don't want to look at a gas station anymore that much. I used to work in a gas station when I was 16 years of age, and I couldn't wait to leave it, but and I know after a while too, when you lived in worked at a gas station, they get sold to somebody else at a later date, and then you don't know who takes care of it, who runs it. So there's things of that nature too, so I'm just letting you know my thoughts, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other public comments before we move on? Okay, so we are going to close the public comment and move on to the closing remarks by the petitioner.
Thank you, Chairman Mayor. I will try to get my arms around some of these comments. That last one was kind of interesting because these people have been in business over 50 years. So the concept of quickly turning over a facility is not high on their list, not high in their experience. The staff report refers to the comprehensive plan, and there were questions about that here this evening. I'll let the people who are concerned about this use ought to look at your zoning code and see what other general business uses can be placed on this site. And Mayor, you've been in the land use area plan, that general business is the broadest of all the commercial businesses. So the number of things that can be put there that might be offensive to everybody is a huge number of people. At least here, you will know you are getting a good development by responsible people who do a good one. And the surrounding areas, much of it is LB, left local business. And local business is far more intrusive in many areas than what we're trying to do here. So the worrisome about that is misplaced for sure. The zoning code is created on a question of appropriate land use. Doesn't have anything to do with competition or anything like that. It's what is the appropriate use for the piece of ground. Your staff has told you what is the appropriate use for this piece of ground. They have engineers on site that work. They have over 30 of these car wash facilities. Haven't had a single problem with any of them. That's because the internal nature of this company, being closely held by the family, is one that watches over all the minor details. The problems of environmental issues and everything, the rules to that are so severe today that any company that wants to do the right kind of job will have their engineers do it. And you know, when I thought about this file, I started to drive around and look at some of these stations to see. And what I have seen is over on, practically on 421, if you go to Madairyville and Francisville and those places over there, you see the white spots in the roads with little towns that are gasping for breath, suddenly have something new on their site that is helping the town become more livable. And I would tell you that there's one of these stations, I believe, at Northwestern Avenue and Lindbergh Road in West Lafayette. Well, if there is a place in the world that is more sensitive and picky about its land use and zoning than West Lafayette, I defy you to show me what it is. Yeah, I've worked in that area. I've seen that one built. It is a beautiful addition to a neighborhood which is generally residential, except to the golf course, which is right across the street. And the neighbors don't complain there, and there aren't any problems. So a lot of the people are worried about the future, and here the future is the hands of a company that's been in business for 50 years. They didn't just show up on the block. The concept of traffic, Mayor, you're absolutely right. NDOT has got all kinds of rules, and they will tell us all kinds of things about what kind of intersection to put here. And they will make you build it that way. And if you don't, then they get unpleasant about it. The underlayment and all of those kinds of things. When you build a matter and you're going to spend millions of dollars on it, you don't do a lousy engineering job if you've got a reputation for doing things well. This company has that kind of reputation.
Have that sheet.
So I would say to you,
that packet.
If the people at least would know that there is a potentially good use here by a reputable company. And without that, this general business site and the LB in the future that could go in that area, just get your ordinance down and see what else can happen there. We respectfully request that you follow your experts' opinions as to the statutory reasons. As to the aesthetics, one of the things you got to do if you're in the law business, in zoning and everything, is be very careful about aesthetic zoning of any kind, because it's frowned upon by the courts. Please grant this variance.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Our zoning, our comprehensive plan says no car wash. I would urge you to honor that. Why have a comprehensive plan? Why have that already thought out, as you well spoke of? It was done for a good reason. Let's honor that and let's abide by our comprehensive plan.
All right, so we will close comment and remarks and move to discussion for the BZA. Any questions for discussion or anything to bring up?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I finished typing Dick's comment though. Hold on. Okay, I have a question maybe for Doug. I have heard anecdotally that there has been an effort to put car washes in Delphi before, and that they have come to pay trouble when it gets to how much water and how much it costs. And then people pull out and don't, that's just a rumor I've heard. And so I'm just wondering for this specific process, where would we have, sorry, sir, but I gotta talk to her. Where would we have already looked at or will look at, the cost for the petitioner to run a car wash, and if that's prohibitive to them at this point? You don't understand my question?
You mean like the logistics of operating a car wash?
Yes.
Under the, that's not something that really falls under our zoning code.
Right.
I mean, that's their.
I was just wondering about the technical advisory committee, if they would have had any say about that, about the water usage or the.
Oh, the water usage, definitely, yes. If they applied for development plan, that is definitely one of the things they would have to work out with the city to make sure they can meet our standards and our capacity.
So that has not happened yet. It'll come after
Right,
this.
which-
If this decision is to move forward with it, then that.
Right, or if they decide they don't want the car wash and they choose to move forward with the convenience store and fuel station. They would.
Which is
Still
why
have-
I asked the question, has our department heads been reached out to just a ballpark idea of how much city water is gonna, if a maximum of 100 washes per day could go through or whatever it was, it's nice for municipality to know how much, that's our infrastructure, it's our water, so we don't want to be pinned against the wall to where we do something in reverse order. So that information is, to my opinion, that's an important part of it. Decision, just because it's not a normal, it's a variance request for the car wash. The car wash uses to wash the cars. Water, right? So that's knowing how much water we're gonna be using from the city. And infrastructure and all that to me is an important part of our responsibilities as a city, is just to know how much. Because it goes for.
Things. They're asking for consideration of the use before they proceed forward with all the calculations necessary to see where it falls with the city. So even if the BZA approved this use, there's no guarantee it's still gonna work on the site. It's just saying the use may or may not be appropriate for this particular site for them to move forward with more development plans.
Are we able to let the petitioner answer any of those questions at this point? Okay,
Yeah.
if you'd like to, I saw you raising your hand back there.
Hang on, Dan.
Yeah, Chairman and Mayor. I would observe that many of these questions have to do with a different stage of any kind of project. The other agencies that are involved are the places where you have to go to get your improvement location permit, a building permit. And if you went to in this case, let's use this example, and I'm thinking about other little communities that have these car washes, community like Francisville has a car wash. And one would think that maybe they address this kind of problem in that small community there. But here, if a developer goes to the water utility and says, this is what I have a plan, I want a permit, and the water utility says, we can't furnish the water, the project's dead. They just shot it between the eyes. That's the other places in the process that are different than the zoning issue are where the controls rest for many of these kinds of things. It's like Mayor NDOT. If they don't like where the intersection is, they're gonna tell you. And then they're not gonna give you a permit if you don't do it their way. The same is true.
I just
with other
wanted to
utilities.
clarify for everyone in the room when that happens, because
Pardon?
I wanted to clarify for everyone in the room when that decision happens, because apparently there's a history of dangling car washes in front of Delphi and then taking them away. And so I just want to make sure everyone understood that our question is about the zoning and the land use, and it could all still fall apart.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct in your question.
Okay.
I do have one other question for Deb. Kind of in the same thing Christina said, rumor of things that may or may not have happened. It was, somebody asked me if there was some approval that was made maybe a year ago about it sounded like this exact same project. About someone in the city approving it, and there were two different meetings, one in the courthouse and then one here in this room. Had to do with the gas station and a car wash. And it didn't ring any bells to me, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
No, not that I've been involved in.
Okay. Are we still taking public comment? We typically don't at this point, but,
Public comment.
right. Just wanted to make that aware I see a lot of people raising their hands still. Any other?
Very, the issue you just mentioned about.
I understand, but we've already closed the comment. I think at this point, I just kind of have to talk to Deb, don't I, is my understanding, so.
Or the petitioner.
Or the petitioner, right? So I appreciate your willingness to answer, but I can't have it at the moment. Any other questions from the BZA? Further discussion?
There was a lot of questions I think that people had that we didn't necessarily have answers to in terms of water usage, more on the city, utilities. Where it discharges, but those are all kind of things that. We will not have that information until they go to apply for permits and then get all their inspections done by NDOT and all the other respective places. So is there anywhere prior to that anybody could have any information on possible water poles, discharges, or anything like that? Or is that information that just wait until the petitioner goes to look for more information on their own?
That may be a question for the petitioner to say what, what do you anticipate usage to be?
Okay. Having, I think you mentioned 50 different stations, not sure how many of those have a car wash. Is there an average number based on similar size compared to Delphi that you would expect from one of your washes?
These are all fair questions, and I think, and I didn't mean to say that we wouldn't present this information. This isn't part of this process, so we haven't been asked to give any of this information as part of the permitting process. All that information is available and then approved by the city. So I don't have any of that information. I don't know that information. I'm not hiding that information. It's just, it's never been part of the BZA process. So when we go and go through the permitting process, I'm assuming that all these things will be checked and verified. You asked about the other 30 locations, and the other 30 locations, we've never had an issue. So this is going to be an issue whether the municipality can supply the amount of water. The amount of water for the car wash seems like it's a lot. It's actually less than when you wash your own car. So the load on the car wash or the load on the water system is not a substantial amount. I don't think that any of the calculations are going to be an issue. And when asked, we'll present any of the information you guys want.
I just want to clarify something else before we all vote. For Deb. So this could be a gas station by right tomorrow.
Correct.
If Family Express came in and said, we want to put a gas station right here, we're not gonna have a car wash. We're just gonna have a gas station and a convenience store. They could do it without the BZA's approval. They could do it without the plant. I mean, it's just by right. They just apply for the appropriate
They would
permit.
still have to go through the development plan
Right,
process,
right.
but as long as their development plan met our ordinance.
Right.
There
would be nothing to discuss.
Right.
And they could have whatever kind of aesthetically pleasing or not pleasing gas station right there.
Correct.
Okay. Just to clarify.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I have one more. In terms of what Lauren mentioned, is there any way that an individual would be able to find an SDS on what kind of things go into that? Looking into, for those who don't know, SDS, formerly called MSCS, is part of the globally harmonized system of looking up what hazards are associated with a chemical based on whether it's liquid form or salt form, pollution measures, things like that. It could be something as simple as like Simple Green has an SDS. Is it anything that you'd be willing to provide just for somebody to read over? I mean, a lot of things people read, they think, oh my goodness, and then you realize it's not half of what you think it is. Saying it's environmentally friendly is something that if it's something where you say, hey, this is the SDS, it's a simple detergent. Might be something that if somebody's worried about the possible effects of a car wash, they read it and they see it's not that bad at all, actually.
My
Might be,
answer is absolutely. None of this is secret.
okay,
So these are chemicals that are bought from a reputable vendor. They're used in every one of our car washes. None of the information is secret. So the answer is yes.
okay. Safety data sheet.
Thank you.
Used to be MSDS.
Yeah. I was
Correct.
confused
Yep.
with it.
Any further questions?
We're still in phase one of our wastewater development thing.
Or the clarifier,
Mhm.
correct.
When
Yep.
does phase two start?
So once we get done with the clarifier, which now really that's for extra storage, so having two, we couldn't take one offline, so once that's done and they get everything up to code, and a lot of engineering was done in 2022 and 23 for the next phase, which would be the holding tanks. So obviously that would be it was between the city of Delphi, the redevelopment commission, and Packers.
Mm.
So the engineering was done, but the cost analysis and all that was not done. So not knowing, a lot of meetings would take place as far as what Packers forecasted plans are and all that. So it's what has to be done next. Now the clarifier is close to being done, but a time frame and all that's not set in stone because we're still waiting for the clarifier. But it's the next part of that project. So there was never a set date.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
Yeah.
It's kind of dependent on where Packers is on what their future plans are and how the breakdown is going to be again for the structure of financing and all the equations that went into the clarifier. So, and I believe they are about 99% done on that project. So once that's done, we can start looking at what we will need to do, for the next phase, which
Any further discussion? No. All right, I am going to call for a motion.
what do you call a motion for? What do you call it? So you just-
Or, sorry, I'm not calling for a
Put
motion.
a motion on the floor
Yeah,
for,
I'm asking if anyone else would like to make a motion.
Well, we'll be here all day. I'll make a motion. I would make a motion to approve the variance with the 4 conditions recommended by the staff in the report. I can name them all if you want me to.
If you would, that would be good.
The approval is only for the car wash as an accessory use for this applicant, so it's not transferable to someone else. The site plan is substantially conforming to the plan presented. Development standards for the site shall be met, and all necessary permits for accessing US 421 are coordinated and obtained.
Is there a second?
Deb,
Is there a?
I don't have a vote, so
Is
how
there a
long do
certain
they?
time, how long we have to wait? Or if we wait too long, will we just move on? Or if someone makes a motion, no one seconds.
Well, if nobody said, no one seconds, then the motion dies for lack of a second. And then you would proceed on to other motions.
Any seconds? I'll call the motion dead on that for lack of seconds. Any further motions? .
Make a motion to not approve the use variance for the Family Express car wash. Based on the considerations noted by the public comment.
Seconds,
I would second that.
all in favor, in this case, we just. Yay, nay, each of us at this point,
Yeah, just all in favor.
Raise a
just all in
hand.
favor, raise a hand, yeah, we'll just raise a hand, that's easier.
Right, yeah, just all
All in
in favor.
favor of the motion to deny? Okay.
And do opposed.
So we will. Is that opposed?
Yep, so all in favor and then opposed.
Oh, any opposed? Sorry, everybody approved it. I was skipping that. So on that, we'll move forward with the motion has been denied. With all in favor? Any further discussion we need to make at this point? Okay. So we'll move on from the public hearing. The next thing is new business on the floor. We don't have anything that we're aware of. Is there anything new business on the floor we need to be aware of?
I'd like to bring up that in low density residential, there's some accepted variances for use like beekeeping and chickens. And I would like to change that because I think they have to submit an $1,100 fee for being able to have any sort of conditions or have a public hearing. It's a little steep, especially with the price of eggs right now, a lot of things going on. A lot of people disagree. Personally, I would like to be able to have a couple hens in my backyard. We could put provisions on it, like have to be kept in humane conditions, your neighbors report that, or it can't become a public nuisance to anyone else, no roosters. But personally, I would like to be able to have a couple hens in my yard. I wish there was less people here listening to that, but I like that discussion. If I can keep a couple hens in my yard, no roosters. That I don't want to have a public hearing and mail all my neighbors a letter and pay $1,100 and.
Is that a question for the planning commission?
It would.
It'd be a panel
something that would be
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something you want? We don't have a March meeting, but would you want to get on the agenda for April?
Yeah, I'd like to be on there if that's possible.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Deb?
Yes.
Are you gonna be there to present your?
I should be there. Yeah, as long as my work doesn't ship me off somewhere, they do.
Okay, because it's
I'll
your
take
presentation,
the other day.
so.
Yeah.
I'll give you my 2 cents on that, just from my previous, no, I get it, right? I mean, they go $12 a dozen and all that, so. In 2016, I think it was 2016 or 13, Camden and Burlington adopted that. They were the only 2 municipalities in Carroll County that did. And I was over there quite a bit because to each community because of roosters. Even though the language said no roosters, there was, I think I tracked down, I don't know, in Camden, probably 5. I'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning when they said he was doing his thing. And I would go sit there and wait because nobody could find him.
Mhm.
We had one up the road here when I was at Airplane, so I pretty much slept in the alley, and 2 o'clock in the morning, there he went. So we finally tracked him down about 6 months ago. So, right, in theory, I understand that part. The unfortunate part is then they get loose, and then you know what's one rooster? Nobody's going to know. He's quiet. So I'm just throwing out everything that I've learned from my other job, but the concerns that the community brought to the area planning office of, my gosh, we voted on this and we approved it thinking that, you know, so just things that I'll obviously touch on it during the April meeting, but I get it. Trust me, the eggs are outrageous, but just a little history of what they've dealt with in 2 other communities. So
Jacob, I know a property you can purchase. Yeah. Motion to adjourn. Adjourned. You got the hammer. All in favor?
Thank you. Thank you.
Huh?
Car wash.
Thank you for saying that because I probably